One thing I'm trying to do with this podcast is make it a series of conversations with interesting people. Today, I think I've got an interesting person. I didn't think he was going to do this. Didn't think I was going to be able to get him to do this. I had to call him up on the phone, try to convince him. And then he finally agreed. He's a very funny guy. He's been a warm-up guy for some big TV shows in New York City, The View, Good Morning America, to name a couple of them. He hosts his own podcast. He's a stand-up comedian in New York City. He recently beat COVID. So we have lots to talk about. He's also somebody that I've known, again, for more than 20 years. So we had a lot to get caught up on. Currently, he's warming up the digital audience for the Tamron Hall show. So very funny person. My special guest today is comedian Tom Kelly. All right, here he is, Tom Kelly. So good to see you, man.
Great to see you, Andrew. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out, man, since we worked together, when was the last time we actually saw each other? Could it be 20 years? Or
I don't think it's 20 years. No, I think that it was, I actually think it was whenever Christian Blatt and Tim Sicardo moved to California, there was a big going away party. When they moved to LA, you may remember it, down in I want to say the East Village or something like that in New York City. And that was about, I want to say that was about 2003 or something.
So 17 years ago.
17 years, yeah.
Jeez, time is flying. Huh?
Yeah, I know, but I've known you for, like Wade, we were talking, this is the sort of the first thing we talked about is how long we knew each other.
So I met you, 99, I guess, or 98?
Yep. 1999.
So that's 21 years, 22 years.
Yeah. So yeah, you were sort of toward the tail end of your Page, NBC Page 1 year tour of duty, and I was coming in.
Yeah.
I want to say you were probably you were in your last maybe 4 or 5 months of it, and when I came.
You were in the middle, because I firmly think of you in my class, if that makes sense. What month did you start? I
started in March 99.
Geez, okay, that late. I always thought of you as being up a little bit more. I did August to August 98 to August.
So you're
99.
about halfway into it. Yeah.
But I also get credit for, because of stand-up and comedy and our other ways of getting to know each other, I always feel like the guy who did 8 years of high school. I'm the guy in town, with the Page program, I'm the guy who kept hanging out in the parking lot at a high school selling weed for another year or two.
You did stay active with Pages for a while, but I think you're also probably one of the most well-known across what they call the Page classes, right? Like you come in and you have a class of, roughly within a year.
I probably, because of you, because of Jenny Kramer, and because of, quite frankly, a few people older than me, and because of stand-up. I know because of Chris DeLuca, who you've met many times.
Oh, of course.
Because of DeLuca and the Ron Mata types, and I know people from the classes of 96 and 97. And then because I worked at Rosie, I probably have Page acquaintances, and because of Jenny Kramer and stand-up, I probably have Page acquaintances from 96 to 2001.
That's and
it's funny with our friend Sarah Haynes, who I worked with at ABC News, we used to say we were Pages together. The reality is I was too old and creepy to be knowing Sarah Haynes at that point.
But when was Sarah Haynes a Page? I wasn't even sure. I wasn't aware.
So she's after you. Haynes was a Page at least around 9/11, because my favorite memory of her is when after 9/11, Rosie O'Donnell had her first show back and no audience members wanted to come into the building. So they had the staff sit in the audience, and she and I sat next to each other weeping. It was just a beautiful show. And I just remember sitting there weeping with her. So she was around that.
She was a Page at that point. She was a
Page, and I was squarely working at Rosie O'Donnell at that point. Yeah. But when you're in the building for that year, you missed that year. That's the year. Remember, that's the year of 9/11. That's the year of the anthrax scare.
Oh God,
because of the Page program. I know somebody who got anthrax. God forbid we ever. In this age of infectious diseases, I guess it's less impressive now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's like, crap, we know someone who had anthrax, and it was only 2 floors away from us.
Yeah. Right, because at the time, the anthrax was sent to NBC News, NBC Nightly News, if I remember correctly, right?
So I was 3 floors. No, and it's funny how far away you were, and yet how close you were in other terms. Like if you think about it, like you were in Jersey for 9/11, right?
No, I
Hoboken
was in the
still?
city on the Upper West Side.
Okay, fine. Let's. I was too. You and I. There's two ways to look at it. We were on the Upper West Side, where in Manhattan terms, you're a million miles away from 9/11.
From
Or if you
downtown,
talk to someone from Florida, you say, "I was only 2 miles away from 9/11."
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how New York just warps your perspective on things like that.
Yeah, well, and Manhattan especially is it's a unique place in that regard, and those were some crazy times, probably in our lifetime, only eclipsed by what we're going through now,
Yeah,
with the pandemic and whatnot.
And it's funny. I mean, I guess have you got? Tell me if I'm repeating old stories, but you and Adam have done the Page program. You've explained what the Page program is to people.
Yeah, roughly. We could do that again, though.
Yeah, it's an NBC corporate training program where you're half tour guide, and then you're half competing for assignments, working in different departments and on TV shows. And it was such a competitive environment that the people who were good people, starting with Andrew Tavani, Wade is on that list. And then there's probably a bunch of other great people. It was like a reality show before reality shows started. And it was such a competitive environment. The good people stand out. And even though I only worked with you for a year, you were much more dear to my heart than other people with whom I've only worked a year.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel the same way. I mean, there's a certain group of people I know, like you, Wade, Kevin Miller, others, Jenny Kramer. There's others. We could name a bunch of them.
Yeah, we don't want anyone to feel. You know what happens? The minute you name more than 3 names, the name number 4 is going to be pissed you didn't say their name.
Yeah, I mean Christian Blatt, Tim Sicardo.
Yeah,
many people, right? That we we worked with in the building. Obviously, in the Page program, we did some things outside creatively, outside of the Page program. That I think of in a weird way, and with you certainly, even with the other people we mentioned, even though I don't see you guys and haven't talked to some of you in years, I feel like I know you. I feel like I could talk to you like, yeah, we were just talking the other day.
It's the value of old friendship, and it's also said that we need podcasts as excuses to get together.
Yeah,
because it is. We are war buddies, for lack of a better word. And it sounds cheap to compare it to real war. I know you're a good American, and that's probably an inappropriate comparison. But however close you can get to comparing us to people who served in the trenches, we are all equally scarred together, and we all got through something together.
Yeah.
I didn't have a great run in a Page program. I did not get any of the good assignments. In the end, my career turned out fine. I really didn't. And in the end, all those weird jobs wound up being like, when you look, like this is how I'm getting through the pandemic. It's the best advice I can give people is the dots make sense when you look backwards. And for me, I had all these assignments that nobody wants. I worked in the sales office. I worked for a while at Dateline.
You got a Dateline. Dateline was a pretty highly sought after assignment in the NBC Page program. I remember I interviewed for a Dateline assignment and did not get it.
And in the end, I got Dateline after I took the guest relations job for a couple of weeks, and then finally I got a TV show assignment, and Ann Jackson let me out of guest relations.
Yeah.
But which actually, can I just give everybody real quick? Did you tell the story about how you became a Page? It's legendary.
Oh, I did not tell the story actually.
Okay,
go ahead.
I'm wasting.
Is it legendary? I feel like people made fun of me for this.
Yes, because it's legendary. I mean, that's how the legend grew. Yes, people started by making fun of you.
I don't know if we should talk about this, Tom. Maybe we should not talk about it.
The man sent the person doing the interviewing a dozen roses, and that's how he got the interview. How amazing. No, but you talk about how to break down a wall.
I sent it with my resume, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. Yeah, it wasn't with like a pack of condoms. It was with his resume. And somebody thought it was cute. Now, that could have just as easily gone the other way. But after he said, you sent your resume 2 or 3 times to normal.
I sent my resume like 5 times. I mean, I was out of college for I started sending my resume before I graduated from college. One of the professors mentioned the Page program as being a great place to start. And as I looked into it, it sounded amazing. I got no responses. And to tell you the truth, somebody gave me that idea. I didn't come up with it on my own. I won't mention who here, but I was like, you know what? After sending it like 4 or 5 times, I may as well try this. And it worked.
It was ingenious. And listen, I was in charge. What I was in charge of resumes. And God, I used to get mad that I went to Quinnipiac College, which was at the time a no-name step above a community school, and I was competing for jobs against people like Rachel Nobleman, who I adore and is a genius. But I would get so mad at her because she went to Brown, and I would be like, "Why the hell is someone who went to Brown a fucking tour guide?" You know, like, of course, I'm never going to get any of the damn jobs. I need the corporate training program. She doesn't. She should have a real job. So she should have, and she turned out to have a great career.
Yeah.
In a bunch of shows.
That's one of the interesting things, Tom, about the program is once you get in, which is magnificently hard to do so. I read a story, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, that it's harder to get into the Page program than it is to get into Harvard.
Yeah. So when I was in charge
once you get in there, you're very equalized. Suddenly, everyone for 3 months does tours, and that's it. That means you're wearing the old polyester uniform. It's not polyester anymore. I think they got them in Brooks Brothers outfits now.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
That's I may apply again just for the free suit.
I know. But that was it. You wore a blue blazer that was made out of this polyester. You had the pin and your name tag on it. And you gave tours and Wade and I talked about this. You did tours like 6 or 7 tours a day, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
For $10 an hour.
And in the end, those tours influenced me somehow. I definitely gave a few tours to a couple of prominent people that eventually got me in at Rosie, and ushering helped somehow. But it's funny. The little moments are what I remember. The little moments are what make me consider you and a bunch of people family. Like Amanda Scott, a woman I don't think I've ever talked to again after the Page program. I remember when I was in charge of reading the resumes, I actually sat there and started ripping up resumes from good schools. I was only letting people from community colleges interview with Ann Jackson. I'm like, this place needs more working class people. What? You went to NYU? You should have a better job. You went to Brown? Out, and she was getting mad. And every resume I ripped, she would scream. It was
Ann Wood?
No, what's her name? With the blonde hair, what girl I just said? Amanda, yeah.
Amanda.
And Ann was great. Ann was just Ann Jackson was just the woman who had been there. You could just tell she was sick of hearing about people's dreams.
Let's explain Ann for a second. Ann ran the program. She was a lovely lady. So the Page program is in the guest relations department because Page has dealt obviously through tours with the tourists coming through and all the audiences coming in to see live tapings of shows and whatnot. So that's where it fell under. But she was a great person, ran the program, which at any given time had like 70 people in it roughly, and was constantly taking new people in as people went out.
She was very, very kind to me. And you could just tell, actually, the right way to say it was, you could tell there was no story she hadn't heard already.
That's true.
She had been there a while and there was just nothing you can do to surprise her. Like there was one time where I did not get a job at the Today Show. I walked into an elevator and I used to love punching the pictures in the tour elevator. They had this cheap plastic frame and I would just go boom and it would shake. Nobody told me one day they switched the frames from plastic to glass. And I punched it by mistake. I go in and I tell her and Tisa Howard, who was in charge of scheduling tours, I think at the time. And I go in and say, listen, this is what I did. I'm sorry. I understand if I have to be fired over this. I didn't mean it. And then they both looked at me and their first thing was, are you okay? And I said, yes. And they're like, good, go clean it. And that was it.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's funny. I miss those days. And then and then all the drinking. I don't know if you remember this story, but you led to I was very much a virgin when I knew you. And I was very much a virgin for another year or two after. I don't think at that point I had barely ever touched a woman. I had barely touched a woman. I was not, if people are watching this on video, I was not the stud you see right now in his childhood bedroom with his friggin' Cabbage Patch dolls from when he was 8 behind him. I was very much the nerdy, goofy, skinny 3-pound virgin. And we had went to a party at Nancy Smith's house.
Possibly.
Remember? on the Upper West Side. And I remember because her parents had an apartment and it had a balcony. It was on the Upper West Side. It was on the
I think I know what you're
floor.
talking about. Yeah.
And whatever it was, one of our friends, and I'll name her later, had a beautiful roommate who I thought was beautiful. And whatever it was, I was just at that point where I was doing well, and then I started self-destructing. And you and Caparaz were stopping me from self-destructing. And one of the things that I thought was hilarious when you'd go into a big building, I got this from Jonathan Hefter. Jonathan Hefter used to love going into elevators and then pressing all the buttons and getting out on the next floor. And I don't know why, that's the biggest dick thing, and it just made me laugh. Anyway, I was about to start doing that, and I just remember you slapping my hand. And Caparaz did a few things too anyway, and it was the first time I ever missed my trip.
For everyone
Jason
watching.
Caparaz, yeah. Anyway, so I'd probably still, I didn't lose my virginity that night, but it was a key night towards the step. That would take 3 more years after that of me losing my virginity at one point.
Well, I'm glad we could help. Whatever help we did, I'm glad we were able to do it. Yeah, so I think I remember that party, but I have vague memories of it. But that Upper West Side apartment was very nice. It was around 72nd or something, if I remember.
And it's funny, I don't remember the exact building, but I live near it now. So I think about that party in that moment every day. I remember because it was right at the 72nd crossroads.
Yeah, right where the subway is there.
Yeah. And I think it was above where that little bank was. It's just weird. There's the subway station, which is a small one-story building. Yeah. And then there's a bank. It's got to be one of like 3 one-story buildings on the Upper West Side. And I think she was right above that.
Yeah. And that was, and just, the Upper West Side of Manhattan, that's where Seinfeld was, took place, was set. And I was actually, at the time I was living in New Jersey, but I was very new to the city at that point. And, it was wild to be up on the Upper West Side, like where Seinfeld was, was set to, be going to parties and stuff like that. But those were good times, Tom.
Great times, my friend. Oh, my God.
It's good to see you. You look great, man.
I let my hair go gray. I don't know. When the pandemic really ends, I can't decide if I want to dye it back. I find I like the longer hair. It covers up the bald spot nicely. But I guess I haven't worked for 3 weeks. Where I haven't had a good show in person for 3 weeks. I'm at that weird point of I need the haircut. And the problem with long hair is I now need to go to one specific guy to cut my hair.
Yeah.
And like at this point, I would love a Flowbee. Like I need someone to, like, it's just like I kind of got like a little tail in the back. Like if it doesn't look good, I look like balding MacGyver if from the wrong angles.
Richard Dean Anderson MacGyver, right? Because I think
what the hell happened
MacGyver.
to him? Yeah, that was him. What the hell happened to him? I'm going to follow him on Twitter.
I think he cashed in on all his MacGyver money and just...
and that's what I want to do. I would love to cash in on my MacGyver money.
Well, what's, I need
a MacGyver. I need a MacGyver.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll remake it a third time sometime soon.
and maybe it'll be me. Maybe it'll be me.
Maybe it'll be you.
The things I can do with a rubber band.
You look good. Are you feeling good? Because I know you had COVID. So let's talk about that.
So COVID destroyed. Nobody wants it. Like, listen, if you get it, if you have it, if you're listening to it and you have it, you'll get over it. But you don't want it either. And as a man who has lost 2/3 of my stand-up career, if not 3/4 of my money this year, I get the need to stay home, but after I got it, I realized, crap, you don't want it. I'm having a little bit of the memory issues.
Are you really?
I think so. Or I've lost my confidence talking. I, at the very least, and a little bit less so now that I'm exercising and walking again.
Yeah.
But it really took
I should say, Tom, you and I had a phone call yesterday and you told me you were power walking on the beach. I think the quote was like an old man, but it sounded pretty vigorous and you sounded pretty good. So
I'm going to tell you, man, like I have worked very hard. And it's funny. This is my slogan for my podcast, TomKellyShow.com, ladies and gentlemen, sign up and get on the mailing list. Anyway, but the podcast slogan really is what I'm trying to do with my life, which is taking the 2020 lemons and turning them into 2021 lemonade. It's a corny slogan, but it's 2020 sucked. I got sick, and I was bedridden for 2 weeks. I had the terror of infecting my parents because I try to come home to Long Island 2 or 3 days a week. And I got my COVID just by going to a party for 1 hour. I went to a party for an hour and a half. It was a Friendsgiving dinner. I only went for the dessert portion. I figured, it's an hour. No one gets sick in an hour. What are the odds you're going to get sick in an hour? And everybody at that party, all 9 people wound up testing for positive at some point.
Get out of here.
And out of the 9 people, and the scary part for me about this disease, no 2 people had the same experience.
Really?
I mean, maybe the person who you thought should have died of it only had the sniffles.
Yeah.
If there were a couple of out of shape guys there, you would have thought they would have died. The more athletic one of the group wound up being the one in the ER. Jeez. And me, I was somewhere in between. And
did anyone end up asymptomatic?
A couple of them. The weird part is, this buddy won't listen to this podcast, so who the hell cares? In the end, you ever go somewhere and you realize, wow, these people are these are not the people you thought you were having dinner with. I knew they were all kind of anti-Cuomo, but I thought they were all kind of in their own pods and laying low.
So no, what do you mean by that? I'm not.
I went there and it was basically a fuck Cuomo party. It was
really?
If there was a dartboard, Andrew Cuomo's picture would have been on the dartboard.
Wow.
If there was a bonfire, Andrew Cuomo would have been tied up in the middle. And there was one girl who, there was one person at the party who was, God, this is probably going to get me in trouble. But the one person at the party who I thought would have been the biggest liberal was the biggest fuck you Cuomo.
Really?
And there was this moment at the party where, and I'm like, hey, where's your sister? Why isn't your sister here? And she goes, oh, she had a cold. And I'm like, don't you see your sister every day? Yeah, but she only has a cold. It's okay.
Oh, geez.
And it was like, bum, bum, bum.
So is that where it was? Was that essentially the patient zero?
Well, what is? I think their way of deflecting is they're accusing me of being patient zero because I came from the city, but I was getting tested twice a day because I was working a job the week before that.
Right.
There is a 1.8% chance that I was the one with the COVID. Anyway, but for these guys, and then there was a moment where I'm like, all right, I actually moved away from the table, tried to open the window, and they're like, Tom, close the window. The cat's going to jump out.
So no one was wearing masks at this thing, right?
No. And I wouldn't have, and this sounds stupid, but if I have to wear a mask at a party, skip the party.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. In the end, everybody pulls down. I'm ready to be a snowbird. I am ready to be a retiree. I think outdoor parties are probably safe if you're all spread out. Backyard parties are probably safe, but an indoor party, dude, I got it. Again, and everybody, listen, get your medical advice from the one idiot who got COVID.
Yeah.
So
let's back up for a second here. You wear a mask though, right?
Oh, I wear a mask. I wear a mask.
What do you wear when you wear a mask? What's your mask preference?
I actually like the N95s.
Wow, look at you.
I hate masks. I actually do. I get all these guys who are walking around, masks are awful, blah, blah, blah. They're friggin' awful. And if you're wearing, and you talk about what's worse, everyone says the cure is worse than the
Turn to your mic, Tom.
Sorry. No, but I was just reaching not that you need me to show you these, but I have my glasses, and I was looking for, if I'm wearing my glasses and the mask, they fog up.
Yeah.
And then honestly, the real danger for me on the streets of Manhattan is walking into traffic. I've walked into traffic 3 or 4 times, or I'm missing
because you're all fogged up.
Because I'm all fogged up. And then don't say, and I put the anti-fog on, and now it just looks like a bird shit on my glasses. It's not it's just a different kind of fog.
Yeah.
Now it's just more squiggly lines than a pure fog. I almost liked the pure fog better. Listen, I get it. That's part of why I like to. Part of me would love to buy a second house out in the suburbs. The funny thing about getting COVID, I've been doing this podcast, TomKellyShow.com. The premise has been Tom Kelly's improving his life and trying to just survive 2020 and make myself a better person for all of the disasters that hit me. And the rating shot up when I got COVID. Like the ratings tripled, if not quadrupled, for the 4 episodes I talked about COVID. When I stopped talking about COVID, boom, numbers are back in the toilet. So next week I'm announcing here on the Andrew Tavani podcast, I have herpes, ladies and gentlemen.
So you're going to see how that goes. Now, what if the ratings don't go back up? Are you going to try to get COVID again, or?
Dude, and that's my fear. So it's funny. The last month, I've done everything right. I've just done everything right for 1 week too long. I had to isolate because of COVID for 2 weeks. Then I pretty much semi-isolated alone in the city for an extra 2 weeks because I had a telecommuting job. And I mean, I came out to Long Island for an hour or two, but that was it. I did a lot of driving, but I was essentially socially isolated. That's the thing about being single. There was nobody to really talk to. I did Christmas at my parents' house on Long Island for the last 2 weeks. And now I'm coming to the end of week 3 because I don't like, if I'm not working, there's no need to be in the city.
Yeah.
Right now, my apartment is essentially a glorified TV studio. And then when I'm not working, if there's no stand-up and I have no friends in Manhattan, I might as well come out here and power walk on the beach. And
that's what you were doing when I was talking to you on the phone yesterday.
Dude, I'm walking. So going back to getting sick from COVID, before COVID, I was walking I could walk 8-9 miles a day and not feel it. I get winded at 4 or 5 right now, but slowly over the last week, I'm stretching the barrier out. The thing with COVID is COVID aged me a good 10 years at first.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't quite get the aches or anything like that, but I did.
So what were you feeling?
So it really awful fever is the big one. For the first 3 nights. So when I actually started showing symptoms, I forgot about being at the party 5 days earlier. I thought when I had symptoms, I had driven from Massapequa to the city and I didn't bring a winter coat and it was a cold day and I felt really cold. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my mother was right. You should have worn a coat. You got a cold. And I thought it was that. I felt extremely cold. I lost, the fever was so bad the first 4 or 5 nights, 3 to 5 nights. I mean, I was screaming out for my mother. Like I was screaming out, God, kill me. I was waking up with like awful nightmares.
That sounds miserable.
Awful nightmares. It was miserable. And then the other thing is, and then I was sleeping a lot. And the problem was then you start telling people you have COVID, the people you love, like I did the contact tracing. And then everybody's calling me every 2 hours to check up on me. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to sleep. Like I could have, if nobody called me, I could have slept the first 3 days just through it.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, I lost my smell on and off. That was kind of fun though. Because then I was just smelling cleaning fluid. Like I could take a Mr. Clean, like a real, like ammonia, Windexy types of stuff, put it right up to my nose and not smell a thing.
Not smell anything. Wow.
Nothing.
Now, why is that fun?
Because it was like you sit there, because I always have allergies. Like even right now, like, I don't smell anything right now. Like you don't know, like I'm the kind of person where you don't know you lose your sense of smell. I really only have a sense of smell. Yeah. And even when it's gone, you didn't know it was gone until someone said you should check on that. Like right now I got, like I can kind of smell the coffee. I can't smell it from here, like
right, but when you put it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So like, I mean, God, that's why probably why I never did cocaine when I knew you.
Thank God. You lost the smell. Did you lose your sense of taste too? Because
no, and that's why I'm a fat ass still. That would have worked in my favor. I'm a big emotional eater. I could have used. I should have lost my sense of taste.
So you were eating fine throughout the whole ordeal.
Yeah, if anything, I was eating even worse. That's a beautiful thing. If you get sick, if you're isolated and you're single, go move to New York City, get a hotel room. They will deliver anything to your damn door at any hour of the day. My biggest vice is I'm an emotional eater. I will diet all day. I'm back on Weight Watchers actually. And I will diet all day. And then around 10:30 at night, I'll want ice cream. And with that Grubhub app, that seamless delivery app, I can have world-class ice cream delivered to my door till 3 a.m.
World-class
You
ice
know.
cream. What qualifies
Oh,
as
they got
world-class?
this place, Holy Cream, Andrew. Take the kids. They're in Hell's Kitchen. They do not even know I'm alive. They are not paying for this endorsement, but they have this thing with peanut butter and M&Ms and fudge, and it's crack cocaine.
And is this is this a chain place or is there's one place and it's
I
in?
think it's one place.
Wow.
They have donuts, skip the donuts. They have a couple of other snacks, skip it. Their ice cream is awful. Or not awful. It's so great. It's awful.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's good. So you were getting that at least.
Yeah,
And
no,
you're
so
able
I'm
to taste
fine.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're fine.
And then after how many days, Tom, did you start feeling better? When did you start feeling like you were turning a corner?
I felt like I wasn't going to die after 4 days.
Wow. So you actually thought you might die? Were you having were you
No,
like
I don't think
wrestling? Were you
I was
wrestling with
never,
that possibility?
I never quite wrestled with going to the emergency room.
Yeah.
Like, I was never sick enough to go to the emergency room, but I was sick enough where you're like, is this going to be forever? Or is this going to get better?
Yeah.
And then I would say what happened was the first 3 days, the scariest part was intense. And then there was this kind of you need to rest sort of a thing, and honestly, it took me a month of rest to get back to where I was. Like, I think I'm getting close to being where I was before I got COVID.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of, I slept for 2 weeks. Like, I came out here to my parents' house the week before Christmas or a few days before Christmas and just slept. Like, I was sleeping that's the other thing about this telecommuting age is you can have COVID. I was still telecommuting for my radio job. I was still telecommuting to a virtual warm-up job I'm doing at this Tamron Hall show right now. And so I was performing for crowds with COVID, but you didn't really get over it until I came out to the suburbs and just slept.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid, and then honestly, I love my apartment in the city. I'm in kind of one of those apartments that I've been planning to leave next year for about 12 years.
Yeah.
I have I have a college bed, my apartment is still very much, I'm 21 or 29.
Yeah.
I have a bed and a mattress I bought from a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
And I keep saying I'll get a new mattress and bed when I move. My furniture set is still IKEA furniture. I don't know. Do you know the comedian Mike Birbiglia?
I know who he is. Sure.
That's all you need to know. Long story short.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know him well either, but I'm living in his old apartment.
Is that right?
By dumbass coincidence, about 9 years ago, actually, no, even worse, 12, 13 years ago, 2008, 2009, I was living in a New York City apartment at 102nd Street on a weird block. If you go one door to the right, it's millionaires. And if you went 2 doors to the left, government housing. The only time I've ever seen a woman take a shit was right in front of my stoop right there. And twice. And it seemed to be a regular occurrence for the woman.
One of the fine sights of the city.
It really was. I still am freaked out by it because the first time I thought she was having a heart attack. She was like in between 2 cars, sitting there with a face which we now know is I'm taking a shit face, not I'm having chest pain face. Yeah. I thought she was having chest pain. I walk and you just see it go, blah, and I'm like, motherfucker. There's that. And then there was, and the building was slanted, like on the Friends episode. It was like on a 10-degree angle. Yeah. If you got into a swivel chair, you would roll backwards.
Yeah, it was sloping. Yeah,
it was a sloping, and it had a slope where it actually circled. There was an like if you put a marble at the high spot, it would actually circle the floor as if it were going down a drain. Anyway, I wound up looking at 100 apartments. Oh, and there were bed bugs in the building. That was the real pressure to get.
That's a deal breaker right there.
That was the deal breaker. There were
deal with a sloping floor, but.
Yeah, the apartment diagonally had bed bugs, and you're just sitting there like, this is God's way of saying, get the hell out.
Yeah.
So I looked at literally 99 to 100 apartments. And on the last one, I wasn't going to go see it because it had a fee. It was a nice apartment. My apartment has this really nice long hallway. It feels like a 2-bedroom apartment, but it doesn't have 2 bedrooms. It only has 1. It feels like a 2-bedroom apartment that you're not allowed into the other bedroom. And you go down the hallway, and I'm looking at the hallway. There's all this art, and I'm like, who likes Mike Birbiglia this much? I like him, but not enough to have a poster of him. Never mind 5. And then he comes out of the bedroom like, oh, and he said, I'm like, dude, why are you leaving? He's like, dude, honestly, I'm married. We want a bigger apartment. Yeah. Otherwise I'd stay here forever. And the landlord, the plumbing works, the heating works. And if something's broken, the landlord comes and I'm there 12 years later.
Wow. And this is on the Upper West Side, right?
74th in Columbus. Come on down, people. Yeah. Anybody wants a drink? Come on down, Tavani fans.
Well, not now. You can't do that now in COVID times, but
this
whole thing.
Yeah, and that's my, it's funny. That's my New Year's resolution now is I'm no longer saying from here on in, I'm no longer saying let's get together when COVID is over, because the honest to God truth is we're not going to. The honest to God truth is not just me and you, but everybody. Like, let's face it. COVID's over. The first thing you want to do is not see Tom Kelly. You're going to take your kids to Disney World. And that's okay. That's what you should do. COVID's over. Second thing you're going to do, it's not going to be, all right, let's go have a beer with Tom Kelly at Hurley's. It's going to be, all right, me and my wife are going to the Bahamas or something. At this point, my new thing is if anybody says, oh, let's get together after COVID, I say, why not just call me now? Just call me now. Like I'm glad, like we're doing right now. Yeah. Or pretend to have a podcast and interview me for an hour, whatever it is. Let's get together, because it's just a way, it sounds crazy, but we always do this whole, let's get together sort of a thing. The one thing I've gotten out of pandemic is I'm forcing the phone calls. I really am. I'm forcing the phone calls. I'm forcing getting together with people. I am forcing, like I've reconnected with old relationships, like it's funny, like I'm here living with my 80-year-old father and my 70-year-old mother, on and off. But you know what? I'm sure one day I'm going to treasure this time, maybe not right now, but I'm sure I will one day say this was a great time. And same thing with this, if you're feeling lonely, like it's so scary and sad. I have the phone numbers for every person we ever knew here. We're a heartbeat away from all these people on Facebook, but nobody's man enough anymore to pick up the phone and have a one-on-one connection anymore, and that's what I'm trying to force.
It's tough. People, I'm not going to make excuses and whatnot, but people are busy and everyone's got something going on and all that kind of stuff,
So what I'm trying to get back into, I had a friend, God, he's our age. He's he's one of those, I think he's a hedge fund guy now or something silly. But when he was starting out in business, the kid used to call people when he was in traffic. And I think that's a big LA thing. Just call someone when you're in traffic. And I'm trying to do that now. Like every now and again, I'll make a 15-minute call. Even if the person doesn't call back, at least I've left them a voicemail.
Yeah. You've made a connection. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's my new thing.
Yeah.
What else is going on in your life?
Well, so let's go back to you're talking about COVID. You overcame COVID. That's great. But you're also, COVID sort of changed your job, right? Now you're doing, because nobody can have an audience anymore. And people should know that you're one of your main gigs is as a warm-up guy for TV shows. You warm up the live audiences, but nobody can have an audience really now in COVID.
So I had a great career. I'm trying to shift my perspective to saying that COVID saved my life. I was working at Good Morning America. They had 2 TV shows there. I was doing the warm up there from, let's say, 7 a.m. to about 11 every morning. And it was a very stressful environment. If you doubt me, go watch the morning show. They at least captured the stress of working on a morning TV show there. And then I was doing a lot of freelance work at a couple of TV shows. And then I was doing stand-up on my own when I could, not enough of it. And I was doing a lot of event hosting. And the event hosting was great work, dude. Big money for an hour's work. Big money, like a week's pay at the talk shows for an hour's work. Now, there were lots of phone calls, meetings, and prepping, but all of that with COVID disappeared.
Vanished. And you're talking about like events, like a corporate event people have, and they want a comedian to come in and make everybody laugh. And that's your job, right?
Yeah. And then I was doing celebrity auctioneering for people who couldn't afford celebrities. And that was an interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Well, how does that work? Well, like your kids are in a school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, your kids are in school.
Sure.
But,
fundraiser.
Fundraiser for whatever it is, PS 101, whatever it is. You go in for a fundraiser, and instead of, they'll have an auction, and I'll be the auctioneer. And that job, actually, I charged a lot of money for. If somebody was giving me runoff work for that, I hated that job. because you felt awful bleeding people for money they may or may not have had. And then you're working for people who wanted to have the best fundraisers ever. I always felt awful squeezing people, for that. But those were great gigs, man. Those were great gigs. They were great times. And, I basically worked my ass off in 2019, and 2020 went to dust.
Yeah.
And I picked up, and honestly, I'm glad it went to dust in the short run. I remember around February of last year saying to a friend of mine, I need a pandemic or I need Trump to get impeached so I can have a week off. I just need 1 week off.
I think he was getting impeached at that point.
He was. At that point, I was more so than Nancy Pelosi. I was mad the impeachment trial wasn't stretched out because I wanted a week off.
Because the wall-to-wall news coverage, they weren't doing.
Exactly. Wall-to-wall news coverage. I thought I would take a week or two off, and the Pelosi would stretch it out. That being said, this little thing called the pandemic was happening. I'm like, geez, man, if I wouldn't mind shutting down New York for a week or two. Yeah. And here we are almost 11 months later. But anyway.
Right. Because going back to that time, Tom, everyone thought, 2 weeks and this thing's all going to be over, right? I think the whole thing was like 2 weeks to.
I thought I was going
to, right? Wasn't that
flatten the curve? And honestly, we just didn't do it right. I think, and I don't want to even get too political. Yeah. I think the hard part was from the top down, nobody agreed with each other. And it's an easy week to beat up on Trump. Yes, you're right. But it's also an easy week when you get scared about politics. The Democrat mayor of New York could not get along with the Democrat governor of New York. Yeah. What hope do we have in this country?
Those two guys have never gotten along.
Yeah, but I mean, these are two guys whose politics are, it's almost like the Roman Catholic Church and Episcopalians and how they fight. It's like, what do you mean you don't believe in the Pope? It's the same damn religion except for two things, and that's the same thing with the two of them. It's the same damn thing. Yeah. But anyway, it became a moment of, how do you transform yourself? When I lost all this warm-up work, and it's funny, Andrew is very good to me. Andrew called me up and said, Tom, I'd love to talk to you about the warm-up work. And I'm like, Andrew, I really don't want to talk about it because I don't know where the future of it is going. I don't. Like right now I'm doing TV virtual audiences, but that could be a fad. It may not last forever. I mean, right now they're going week to week with me working at the Tamron Hall show. They seem to really like their virtual thing. Yeah. And I like it. But I mean, you're right. Right now, you talk about how fragile.
Is Tamron Hall having an audience in studio or
no? Well, right now she had a live audience before the pandemic.
Okay.
And now she has an audience via Zoom.
So they're having a whole Zoom audience, and then you're coming in on Zoom and warming them all up, telling the jokes, and getting them. That is a fascinating.
You should come. I think you'd get a kick out of it because you know what? It reminds me almost to us. It's like doing a college radio show. It's like doing a college morning radio show in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I would almost describe it as the way I really describe it as it reminds me of doing mini control.
Yeah.
You remember how we had that? Like I have a sound. Basically, mini control was the fake newsroom at the end of the tour when we were tour guides
at NBC.
At NBC. And what we had though was there were videos you could play, and then there was a soundboard with like a mixing board. Yeah. Anyway, what I'm doing with it is I kind of think I'm bold. There are only 4 or 5 people doing what I'm doing in the country right now, which is terrifies me.
That's amazing.
What I am doing is sort of I'm letting go a little bit of being a comedian, and you watch the show with them, you get them excited. The job involves being a little bit of a producer, which is what I wanted to be when I first met Andrew. Like I take notes on the good audience members. Yeah. And we list who they are. And if Tamron Hall is interviewing Beyonce and it goes down, I have a list of who the biggest Beyonce fans are. So Tamron can interview them, or something like that. And the reality is in between, it's about having fun. The audiences, you can get the tickets. The link to the tickets is on my website, tomkellyshow.com.
Yeah, we'll put it in here.
So you don't have, but anybody can go there. There's a lot of people going several times a week, which I don't love. Like there's probably about 20 people going to all the TV shows 5 days a week right now.
You're telling me people are going to see Tamron Hall virtually every day?
There are a few people there a couple of days a week. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And would go every day if they had the chance.
Yeah.
And I get angry that they're letting these people come in every
because then
day.
you can't recycle the material, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so exactly. So now you can't recycle the old jokes. Yeah. And there are certain, for warm up, there's certain jokes that you need to tell every day, or there's certain things, there's certain bullet. The hard part about being a warm up comedian is there are certain bullet points to hit every day. But the nice challenge of it has been trying to be a radio show host rather than a stand-up comic.
Yeah, that's interesting, Tom.
You know, like I can't do my bit on the dating the girl at Chick-fil-A or whatever. You can't do whatever the stupid thing is. Here, at least now, so it's more talking to people, motivating them to clap. Like it sounds stupid, but if you clap like this, look at me, I'm clapping. Doesn't look good on television.
Yeah, no, you got to get those hands up.
Yeah, hands up, baby. Hands up.
Visual. TV's visual. Yeah.
You know, they don't use the audio. The Tamron people are very ethically correct on how they do it. The audio of 100 people clapping sounds really jarring to the ear. Yeah. Like if I were giving anybody a Zoom meeting tip, it's have everybody hit mute except for the one person talking. Because when you have 50 mics open, it just sounds so tinny. It wakes me up in a way that is just unhealthy. They use track applause when people are clapping, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and the trick is too to keep people focused and keep people into it. Tamron does the shots live. Other TV shows are taping ahead of time and using the footage.
Interesting.
Tamron does it. Like you'll see someone over Tamron's shoulder. They're there live. You watch a couple of the shows. I'm not allowed to name them because I may want to one day work for them. But they pre-tape the shot so everybody looks good clapping. So I have to be careful that, I got to be careful that somebody doesn't do this in the middle of an interview while somebody's talking, and then suddenly, you see an empty chair on the set. You don't want that to happen during an interview with Tamron, when Tamron's interviewing an army widow.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that, and it's a fun, it's fun for now. I've been doing a lot of corporate meetings. Like, I think you saw the clip I did.
Yeah, I did. I saw you were doing, I think it was a marijuana insurance agency.
Well, it's an insurance agency that sells risk insurance to cannabis companies.
So,
and so like I've done about 4 or 5 of these corporate meetings.
Hold on a second. We have to actually show that clip. Let's take a look at that clip because I thought it was funny. You posted on Facebook. Here it is.
Yeah.
Just say there's no effort. It's blue in the damn logo. For the love of God, people, you sell weed insurance. This is not the logo of a company that sells weed insurance. Is this really the slogan we're bringing into meetings with potential clients? Rethink. Go to Geico. Ladies and gentlemen, the new Sterling Insurance background. This is what you guys should have in your meetings. Look at it. It has a little zoom. There you go. You guys are a company that sells friggin' weed insurance. This should be your wallpaper background. There you go.
Very funny, Tom. Very good. Very good.
Like right now, like if I were giving anybody advice for how I'm handling pandemic, and then if it's useful to you, you take it. I've used this as a year to try to elevate myself. I've used this as a year to try to transform and adapt to the stages. I have 2 nightmares in the world right now, is that the world comes back and I look at the last 11 months of the pandemic and say, I did not get enough out of it. I didn't learn how to make blueberry muffins. I didn't learn how to make banana bread. I didn't learn how to play chess, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to speak fluent Mandarin, but I've worked on rebuilding the structure of who I am. At the beginning of this, I tried to write a financial planning book. If you reread it, it looks like a manifesto. It's actually really the worst, like 50 pages ever written. I started this podcast. I started a podcast and added a podcast. The podcast originally a year ago was me and a celebrity wedding planner. And the guy's name is Mikey Russo, great guy. And what's sort of the podcast, we're like, all right, let's do this podcast. You'll be back to wedding planning in a week or two. And I'll be back to stand-up comedy in a week or two, and we'll figure it out. And slowly we realized we were encouraging super spreader events. You know, like he wasn't that into it. It was like, hey, listen, like, hey, have a party at the Rose Garden. You know, it became one of those sort of things. Here are some tips for having your wedding, even though Dr. Fauci and 9 other epidemiologists say don't do it. Yeah. You know, so anyway, but from that, I learned how to work this stupid little soundboard. Yeah. And it made me cuter and more charming at this Tamron Hall thing. I'm doing my own podcast where we'll start refocusing on that next week, where I'm trying to talk once a week to people whom I find interesting and can help me grow. That's really the only standard. Like I talked to a great comic, Sam Morrill. You know, he did stand-up comedy on the roofs of buildings and turned it into a YouTube special. You know,
during the pandemic.
During the pandemic, I was doing shows with a guy, Jay Nog, who invented. He actually is. You're a Godfather fan, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I always call him the Mo Green of parking lot comedy. That he invented the idea of doing comedy in a parking lot and drive-in shows. Yeah, and he was the first guy to do it, but has made none of the money off it. You know, and everybody started copying it. So I did shows in a parking lot. I did a bunch of, like at this point, I've been screwing myself up thinking of the big picture. So I'm trying to do the little things. Like it took me 6 months, but I rebuilt my website. So if I ever start working again regularly, there it goes. You know, like one of my weak spots for doing corporate meetings before the pandemic was my website was shitty. Now I have a great website, but nowhere to work. You know, I invented actually another big tip that I think you need to get into is set up a mailing list. That's especially in this age of, we see it today with Donald Trump. Donald Trump had 2 million followers on Twitter. And if the company decides, you're out, you know, and now obviously I'm on team Twitter in that one, but Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and even TikTok, every time I start getting moderate success there, they tweak the algorithm and I go back down. You know, if you have an email address list, you can go straight to the people, you know, and that's sort of what I've been pushing. Hang on, let me hit that button to ignore him. And sorry about that. You know?
So really, Tom, though, what you're doing with the virtual warming up on the Tamron Hall show and doing the comedy for corporations and whatnot, that is sort of groundbreaking right now. You're blazing a trail. Obviously, there wasn't really a lot. Nobody thought to do this anyway, because you could just do it in person previously. Now that you can't, you're sort of.
I think I am. On the other hand, you don't know. I think I'm the first one to do it well within the limits of Zoom. I think it's funny. Someone once said to me, and I think you'll get it, I miss our early days of comedy. I don't miss, I think when I don't miss organizing groups of people to get together. I don't miss wondering how many asses are in the chairs, but I liked when we did a couple of those early sketch shows and stuff. I do like the idea of doing silly produced bits more than stand-up. Yeah. You know, and that's what this can be, like a Zoom meeting. It's using the room. So with Zoom, I put way too much energy into cheap Photoshop graphics. Yeah. You know, I'm enjoying the room. I sent the clip you just sent to an agent, and the agent said, well, lots of our guys are doing this. And I'm just, my reply is, sure, but I'm doing it really well. Yeah. And frankly, I don't know if I may not be funnier than your guys. In fact, I'm probably not. But I do have the eye of a producer and and the technical skills of a 44-year-old nerd. I can make these things a little peppier than they can do. make me one of your guys was sort of my slogan.
Sure.
And that's the hard part about comedy. And that's why I was so shy about doing an interview with you is, yes, we've come so far, but yes, there's so much further to go.
Yeah. I mean, that's the case for everyone, Tom. And I told you that, we're all like in the midst of careers and trying to get whatever success we thought we might be able to get. Obviously it never comes on the timeline you exactly envision when you're young, especially, and you talked about at the very top here, you talked about how competitive the Page program, that's something Adam Wade brought up as well. It's like,
Wade, what did Wade think of it? I only got through the, I fast forward on the Wade interview. I fast forwarded to the parts where you talked about me first. And then I listened to the first chunk. What did you and Wade think about how competitive it was? Like,
well, it was just about more like you get into this thing. It's so hard to get in. And then it's like you expect, the expectation is probably more internal. You put it on yourself, but excuse me, it's like you're on a timer to do something big, to make something happen. And the Page program is 1 year tops. Some people come in there, they're there for 2-3 months and they find another job and then they're gone. Other people stay the whole year. I think like you and myself. And
I did the year and a day.
Yeah.
They had to kick me out.
Yeah, same. And it's, you feel a competition, and the competition is sort of set up within, like you said, it's almost like a reality show where you're competing against Pages for these assignments. And some of them are very cool, like Adam Wade got probably one of the coolest ones as the 6A desk page.
He had the desk, yeah.
Which was, working the late night with Conan O'Brien show. And you sit right outside the studio and you manage that whole process of guests coming in. And every night it's a couple different celebrities and it's super fast paced and it's high pressure, but it's also great fun. But only one person gets that and everybody goes for it,
If I were giving anybody listening to this show an opportunity for self-growth, and I'm including you on this, I'm not going to give you too much advice on how to live your life, but everybody on earth should take Adam Wade's Introductory to Storytelling class. When I was going through one of these plateaus that I'm probably going through now, where you just start banging your head against the wall and saying, what do I want to be when I grow up? I took Wade's Intro to Storytelling class. It was me. It was like 2 or 3 elderly drug dealers. It was a couple of college kids. And it was probably 3 or 4 NPR people who were in between. And then a couple of hipsters. It was like the most diverse class of human beings. And then you got Wade, who, for all of his fame and fortune, I think of as our quirky friend.
Yeah.
Like you forget, like and I think that's the nice thing about Wade is, for as accomplished as he is, you can still say this is the crazy guy that we knew when we were 21. And anyway, the man teaches, the tenets of storytelling, but the philosophy that goes into it. Like he and I had great conversations about
get a little closer to your mic, Tom.
I'm sorry. Yeah, geez, that's the problem with doing this stuff in a swivel chair. He and I had stories about how, or when I say he and I listened while he told the class about, selling, the art form versus selling out, the integrity of the art versus selling out. And he had just powerful feelings that I remember from that. I accept that I don't know where I can perform storytelling and making out. And to be clear, Andrew, the difference between me and Adam Wade is Adam Wade is a great artist. I am willing to sell out to the next bidder. I won't even ask you how much. And I acknowledge it. No, close. I'll take, listen, even for my retirement funds right now, I'm about the quick short-term buck. Wade is about a long-term art.
Wade does have, he's playing a long game, no doubt. And he's a brilliant storyteller. And he's been very, I think, he's been very uncompromising on his vision of how these stories should be told and sort of what his brand is. And it's worked out,
Yeah. And I would say, like, frankly, if there's anybody here who's thinking of being a teacher, you should take the class. If there's anybody here who is a leader in a group, an administrator of some sort, take the class. If there's anybody here working at a fruit stand, take his class. It's a good, no, but even if you're not pursuing it as a career, I found the class so useful. I have been debating doing the 1 hour storytelling show thing. He has a second level class. I'm not sure if I'm emotionally ready for yet, because I am addicted to this is a funny one for comedy. And this is the one thing I do miss about live comedy is I'm addicted to the drug of the quick buck and the quick laugh.
Sure. The quick laugh. Of course. I get that.
I miss, like, it's funny how comedy was a crutch that carried my social life. Like I couldn't make plans. Like I couldn't make plans 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time to go see Tavani and meet the kids because I might have a show that week. And if I had a show, I didn't have to make plans. I would just call up 3 friends in Manhattan. Are you out? I'll see you there. Or I would just hang out at the bar after a show.
And see who you run into. Yeah.
Yeah. And then even for stand up on the road, which I do miss, and I didn't quite have, I miss the deep road where like there was 2 years where I was a road comic. I played in Augusta, Georgia, St. Mary's, Georgia, Wilmington, North Carolina. I wasn't playing big clubs. I was playing bar shows in all these little towns. And I miss going to places I would never go to on purpose. And then you would go and it would be like, all right, you just booked my vacation and I got to see a weird place. Now it's like I have to choose to go somewhere. And that's just, it fries me,
Well, just getting back to Wade for a second, his he is a brilliant storyteller. I don't know. Have you listened to his You Ought to Know Adam Wade, the Audible thing?
I did, and I'm trying to get confused. I think I did warm up for one of his specials. I don't know if it was You Ought to Know or the one before that.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was really not astounded, but I thought it was so well told, so tight and polished. It came out great.
Yeah, You Ought to Know. And then he has another special where he talks about growing up in New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire, yeah. And he talks a little bit about this, his early life in New Hampshire.
So the album before it, God, I don't want.
I think it was like it's comedy.
Yeah, and he talked about like eating out with his aunts and stuff.
Well, he talks about his Yaya and Aunt Aridi in this.
Okay, so then I'm
his grandmother and his great aunt. Yeah.
So to your point, I'm just confusing the names of the. I guess that isn't that great too that he is so well produced that you don't know if it was album 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, the man. What's funny about Wade's comedy and Wade's storytelling, because I feel like sometimes calling him a comedian cheapens him. I have been, a lot of old ethnic women have sort of been important in my life. And it was just fun to see that, to see somebody else have their own similar experience without it being but he verbalized the American experience. I cried. Like there was one of his albums, like there would be stories and I just start crying and then I start laughing and the tears
that is a for You Ought to Know, Adam Wade. That is a quality of that experience that's really interesting. Like it gets very poignant, almost, at points like, it's so introspective. And it's almost like you get a little sad. And then the next minute it's like laughter and it's very funny. He really takes you on like that roller coaster.
Yeah. And not to blow too much smoke up Wade's ass here, but Wade, Wade has mastered something in himself, something that I have been trying to capitalize on myself. Like my strength, and we talked about this a little bit on the phone yesterday. I'm funny, not the funniest guy in the room, but I'm funny. I'm funny. I'm okay. But I think one of my real strengths that Wade has managed to capitalize on, which I have similar to some degree, is I'm a good person. I work hard at it. I'm not a good person, but I try to be a good person.
You're a good person. And look, Wade and I talked about that, your hardworking nature, and how that, got you to all the success you've had. That's undeniable. And so if I could bring this back around town, we were talking about you quite admirably, actually, and talking about your your career as a warm-up guy. I know you don't want to talk about it, but let's talk about it for a
let's
second.
talk about it. At this point, we're far enough into the show. If I put my foot
no
in my
one's
mouth,
listening this long.
no one's listening. This is good.
Well, maybe I'll cut it up in highlights.
Fuck you. Go for it. Let's hit it. Hit it hard.
So I mean, look, we saw, you were doing The View, you're doing GMA warm-ups, and you're doing those GMA concert series, which is, I thought that was really fascinating. You're out there. For anyone who doesn't know, Good Morning America in the summer, every Friday, they have these huge concerts in Central Park. They pack like 10,000 people in there, and you're the guy up there warming up the audience, making sure that they're high energy. Tell me about that experience. What's that like?
I'll tell you about the first one. I'll tell you about the first big one. And this sort of sums up why I'm good at it. So they used to do them in Bryant Park. Now they do them in Central. They do them in Central Park now. Maximum crowd size 7,000 people.
7,000, yeah.
Sounds
looks like 10,000 on TV. It looks a lot.
Yeah, 7,000. What's 7,000? Before that, my first 2 or 3 years doing it, they would do it in Bryant Park, and from Miley Cyrus once and the Jonas Brothers twice. Actually, even Miley Cyrus twice and the Jonas Brothers twice. Crowds of about 20,000 people.
They were getting 20,000 in Bryant Park?
And not just in the park. They'd fill the park, and then the streets around would start filling.
That's huge.
But the count was 20,000. And I remember my first one. And I sort of have what's become a catchphrase, saying "Who wants to be on TV today" has become my catchphrase starting a show. It is facetious, but it became a catchphrase. It started anyway. I remember first time walking out onto the thrust, which is the little runway. It's like the fashion runway that goes into the crowd. And I remember grabbing the mic and saying to these crowds of screaming girls, "Who wants to be on TV today?" And you could just feel. You could just feel their positive energy bullets going into you. And I had the presence of mind to say, remember, they are not here for you. This applause is not here for you. And once you get into that mindset, it is fantastic. It's a drug. It's funny if I told you how much money I made on those shows compared to the size of them financially. I mean, listen, they always say about ABC stands for always be cheap. They don't pay well, but the pictures are world-class. The friendships I made with people working in the park there, like Good Morning America. It's funny. Good Morning America was a job. Good Morning America in the park was summer camp. It was, everybody was outside, everybody was happy. And every week it would be a new band. And sometimes the crowds were huge. And when they were like, it's funny. I have a video I did with a girl from she was at a BTS concert. And you want to talk about how unfair comedy is. I've got, let's say, 500 videos on YouTube. Some that I actually spent several $1,000s on making. Okay. My two most viral videos are video number 1 is me interviewing a 13-year-old girl who sang at a BTS concert. I get 5 comments a day on that.
Are you scared of the balding guy in the jean jacket? Is that it? Oh, you're just very excited. Who else is really excited here? Let's start slow. What's your name? Where are you from, Nicole? Oh my God, the crowd loves you. Nicole, the crowd loves you so much, they just went all on your name. Where are you from, Nicole? Nicole from New York.
Nicole from New York. Nicole from New York. Nicole from New York. Nicole from New York. Nicole from New York.
All right, who else can watch Nicole cry for half an hour? How adorable is she? Nicole, you're crying. Is it because she owes you money? Is that it? Who's that person over there?
She's my best friend.
Give the best friend a round of applause. How old are you, Nicole? It would have been funnier if you said 46. You speak Korean, you said?
Yeah.
And what is the best band in the world?
BTS!
Why do you love BTS so much? What do they do for you?
They're so loyal and I love them. They're adorable!
By the way, there's nothing better than when someone who is adorable yells out, "They're adorable!"
BTS! BTS!
Ladies and gentlemen, Nicole from New York!
Here you go, kid. Loud and proud.
And also, Nicole, I will be your backup dancer. You okay with that? Okay, here we go.
I like the position.
And my second most viral video with 2 million views is me in my apartment at 3 a.m. listening to the neighbor have loud sex.
Oh, God. You got that.
And then those both have 2 million views each. Then my third most popular is, I don't know, let's make it me eating a sandwich. It's something cruel. But you know, like, dude, I crowd surfed.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Tom. You literally look like a rock star. I've seen pictures of you out there crowd surfing. That's gotta be a high, right? A performing high. I mean, not even like a career high, but just in the moment, it's got to feel like a drug, right?
It is a drug. Because what's kind of funny is the way they used to do it. They tweaked the process a little bit now. Legally, my microphone doesn't go on until 7 o'clock there because of the city noise laws. Okay. 7:01, they start doing what they call the line check for the sound. Like the roadies start testing each instrument. Then the band will do a sound check from, let's say, 7:20 to anywhere between 7:20 and 7:45. And, so literally, like, using the Jonas Brothers as an example, what's a good more modern, like Keith Urban would do her sound check and then Tom Kelly would come out. Yeah. So it was like having Jennifer Lopez open for Tom Kelly. The energy, like it's really
right. So that gets people fired up because they hear
on the good days. Yeah. On the good days, it was about meeting people and then having fun with it. Yeah, and it is, and it's half like being and these are the cheaper things about warm up, but I love and miss them. It's like being a tour guide at NBC sometimes. Yeah. Oh, you have a birthday? Yay. Oh, like I loved meeting people from around the world. I often
absolutely. And that's the thing with those audiences that are coming for those concerts. You're talking about middle America, people coming from middle America, all across the country coming in for that, which is very similar to those tours that we used to give at NBC. Those were all tourists. It wasn't New Yorkers going on. Yeah. It was out of town
country fans. Country. I have people who would, and the bigger concerts were fun. Like, and it's funny when I figure out I don't know what I would do if, when the world comes back, I don't know what decisions I'll make, but I do miss tourists. I do miss people who go to concerts. Absolutely. Because they're there for a good time. They're, the crowds are early. The hard part is the crowds are early. Sure. That works against you. But in general, the crowds are happy. Every now and again, you'd get a rough, sometimes though it's a scary job. Like I'm trying to remember some of the names of the acts. Like sometimes it would be an act and I don't know who, like it would be, I don't know. Keith Urban's a bad one because I've started listening to him lately. But Keith Urban, the nicest man in show business. I can't name his songs. I will say, Alexa, play Keith Urban. Or I got caught on, I think it was Big Sean, who had the, exactly. And I think the lyrics are, I don't fuck with you. Like that's a song. Yeah. And now you got Tom Kelly like, all right, guys, who wants to be on TV today? Sometimes, and those were probably a little more nerve wracking. And I think the hard part was learning how to fill time and create a show within a show. I'd have people, and again, it's hacky, easy shit, but I did it well and do it well. Actually, I'll speak it into present. Right. It's celebrating people,
And the point of the warm up guy is not to go out there being edgy and going groundbreaking with the comedy. You're there to entertain people, keep their spirits high, make them enjoy the full experience of being there, right? Yeah, and
listen, there's moments where, and it's funny in this age of political correctness, though the line is getting the leash is getting tighter, but you could slip in the good jokes.
Absolutely. You can pepper a few in probably, but you're not there to like do your 45 minutes of like straight Tom Kelly, right?
Well, and it's funny too, though, how even some of the jokes you love, like it's funny. This is a good, let's treat it like a morsel of wisdom. Don't critique actually, it's a boss who used to work at NBC. A great woman who's been very kind to me throughout my career. Her first week supervising the concert, I used to have a joke about stepdads, one that I've told on television. Mm-hmm. I want to be a stepdad because if the kid's ugly, it's not your fault. And I had told the joke on The View before, and she pulls me to the side and says, Tom, I'd rather, is there a way you cannot do that joke? Because I don't want stepkids to feel bad. Yeah. And you pause and you start, you have a moment where you go, am I, do I have to defend the comedy or do I want to just have fun? And she and I had a great moment. I looked at her and I said, am I in trouble? And she said, no. And then I said, you'll never hear that again. And she was right, because she's right. It's about making people feel good. Yeah. And it's funny, people find this awkward, but my gift is giving awkward and backhanded compliments. And now I don't mean to be mean. Like when I say something that might be awkward, like if I say, hey, you got a great head of hair, I genuinely mean it, but it sure comes out kind of, it may not come out the way I'm thinking up here or in here. And when it comes out here, it sounds mean and people laugh.
I'm gonna have to review this tape to see the awkward ones you gave me today.
You should. I mean, you should. And in this age of, it's funny, in this age of like going to human resources and, trying to be politically correct, you sit there and you wonder, how can you be funny nowadays? Like I'm actually excited about a Biden presidency. Yeah. Trump made angry political comedy funny. And I couldn't do that at places. Like I couldn't do any political jokes at the Good Morning America. I could when I was working at The View a little bit, but then I was finding I was angering the Republicans by telling my Trump jokes. Yeah. Like I had a couple of great stock lines. This is the lack of engagement that got Donald Trump elected. I had a couple of other just easy Trump jokes that just worked. And, you can't do that at Good Morning America because they want to be journalists.
Sure.
Even the week, like I am curious to see if I were to go back to a normal show, like I actually slip it in at Tamron because I think no one can hear me, but I had COVID-19. Good news is my lungs are working again. I can smell my own farts again. That may not
that's
work.
A joke. That's if you log on to Tamron Hall's audience, that's a joke.
Allow it in and and then it's funny. One of the bosses heard me and said, Tom, you went fart joke. And you're right. Fart, like at The View, I once had a boss who hated fart jokes. Yeah. And I'm like, but farting is funny. Whoopi tells fart jokes. He's like, yes, but you don't.
My kids would love that joke, Tom.
Thank you. You see, it's easy. Yeah. It's all about the easy hits. Yeah. How old are the Tavani kids?
12. One's about to turn 11 and the other's 6. So.
All right. That's my demo.
I know that's your you're hitting your that's your prime demo right there.
You know, it's funny not to go back to one of your old questions, but talking about your kids for a second is the flash. If we were getting close to ending this on a positive note, that's what I do miss. Like January 3rd, 1992, I was in an awful car accident with my father. Everybody turned out to be okay. And it was the short version of the story. The first night I saw David Letterman, you know, we got back from the hospital, we were somewhere, and I watched Letterman at 12:30, and it made me laugh. And I said, I want to do that. I want to make people laugh who are sad. Now, when I said I wanted to do that, I wanted to have his money, his cars, and a house in Greenwich. But I also wanted to make people laugh when they were sad, and to create memorable moments. And I mean, listen, in my heart, I would love to be adored by all the women who shot me down in high school. You know? No, but for real, that's like at first, like my shrink says, you're doing this to get revenge. Part of me is.
But it goes beyond that at some point, right?
Yeah, and the beyond that moment, it's funny. You just reminded me of something I really miss, which was the nice thing about Good Morning America wasn't just entertaining the tourists. It was the actual moments with kids and family members, and making, even if they don't remember Tom Kelly, for a minute or two, they would remember their vacation, and I made that moment more special.
But let me tell you, I missed that. Let me tell you a quick story, Tom, that I think speaks exactly to that. When I was a kid, right, 1987, I was 11 years old. My parents took my brother and I on this month-long tour of the American West. Obviously, we stopped in LA, went to Hollywood, went to see a sitcom taping that day. The show was, it was actually the pilot. It was the pilot episode we got to see taping. It was called Bustin' Loose. And it was Jimmy Walker was in it. I don't know do you remember it? I think it was on. I
vaguely remember it. Vaguely remember it.
Well, we're sitting in there. It's a long process going to a sitcom taping. We were there probably for 4 hours or something. And, you know, for about the first hour or so beforehand, the warm-up guy comes out, right? And I was 11 at the time. A lot of what he was saying was probably not appropriate for me and was going over my head. But I could tell this guy was funny. You know, the audience was loving him. It was great. I was loving it. I was loving that everyone was loving it, you know? And then, you know, if you've ever been to a TV show taping, you know, there's breaks in between, something technical goes wrong, and the crew needs a break, and the warm-up guy comes back out to keep the energy up and makes everybody laugh. To this day, Tom, 33 years later, 34 years later, I remember that warm-up guy more than I really remember anything about the show itself. Yeah. You know? And I think that is, like you said, you're connecting with those people, people who've come from very far. So I think that's a real thing.
It's a real thing. You know what it is, though, too? You don't want to be, I'll give you two things. One, I miss those moments. And it's funny, I've gotten a couple of nice notes over the last year of my son still talks about you, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
But I also realize, and it freaks me out, that these amazing moments in my life are really because a person casually hired me. And I don't want to be defined by them, because there will be a time, and there have been times, where I haven't been the guy casually hired. So the one thing I like about the Wade approach to his career, that and not just Wade, but other stand-ups, is I enjoy that, but I also need to, and I'm working on creating a second tier, which is, what is the Tom Kelly tier where I give permission to do what I want to do? You know, like you're doing this podcast. You know what?
Well, you're doing that, Tom. Yeah,
I'm doing that. But the thing is, too, you got to focus on it and be known for it. And that's what I'm working on now. And again, keeping it positive, going negative and then positive. When Rosie, so I did the Page program, then I worked at Rosie for 3 years. And when I was at Rosie for 3 years, everybody who loved me in life is, hey, that's Tom Kelly, works for Rosie O'Donnell. He's the best. And then that ended, and I could not get a job on any of the other shows that worked. Any of the other shows, nothing, like everybody went one way, nobody hired me. A bunch of people went another way, nobody hired me. We had a bunch of friends at MTV, nobody was getting me work. And I lost my labels. You know, my labels were taken away from me. And what scares, me now is I don't want to be known by, and I knew this when I was doing warm up too. I don't want to be known for my labels.
Yeah.
And I almost am shy about talking about the labels lately. And my line with Andrew before this was, I feel like I'm William Shatner saying I don't want to talk about Star Trek anymore. No, and that happens. Like Leonard Nimoy wrote a book, I Am Not Spock, which was a middle finger to all Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
But going to the point is what I love about Pandemic, what I'm going to do with Pandemic is my gift of Pandemic is going to be, I'm going to work on me.
That's good.
And create me.
That's good. And look, I think you're already probably doing that, you've already done it to some extent. But let me just say this, and then we can wrap it up because we're going pretty long here. But to wrap it up, on a positive note, like I was saying, Adam, and like I was telling you on the phone, Adam and I were talking about you and definitely from a place of admiration in what you've accomplished. And I bet that, especially some of the people that are going to watch this, our former Page colleagues, and those people, I bet that they have that feeling as well. I bet there's a lot of admiration for people, all the different paths that careers went from people who came out of that program. They probably look at you and say like, wow, that I'm really impressed with that, So I would take that away from it too.
You're very
not putting any label on you or anything, but just saying, hey, that you did cool things, man.
No, we've done cool things, and we're surviving, my friend. We're surviving.
You're surviving.
But the one thing we got to do better at is have more moments like this.
Yeah. And look, if I'm being completely honest, Tom, I think you did. You've wasted your time so far. You haven't learned Mandarin fluently. So I expect the next time that we get together, you at least can maybe introduce yourself in Mandarin. How about
what? If I'm going to use that joke again, I need to learn one word that won't make me sound racist. Like if I went, General Zhao's chicken, I'll sound like racist white guy. But I need to learn how to say one word just to look smarter for that joke to work again.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Best callback ever, Tavani. Best callback ever.
Thanks. Listen, it was great getting caught up with you, Tom. It's been years since I saw you and talked to you, but this was fun. I hope it was fun for you.
It better not be years till the next time. That's all I have to say on
soon.
this.
How about that? Well, let's make an agreement, like maybe within 6 months. How about that?
Deal. Within 6 months, we talk again, whether it be on Zoom or on the phone.
Oh, I bet we'll talk on the phone before 6 months. I'm saying do this again on Zoom.
Deal. 6 month follow-up. 6 month, kind of like my doctor. Come see me in 6 months.
Exactly what it is.
You know what I hate to, let me do this as a bit here for a second, or not even as a bit, but I don't know if you're feeling it right now, but I find Zoom meetings are so much harder to hang up on than phone calls.
A little bit, because you're looking straight at the person,
Yeah. And you don't see the other person reaching for the phone or the end button.
Yeah.
So are you going to hit end or am I going to hit end? It's like kind of like the old.
Look, I'm doing, you see my mouse? I got my mouse right
Commit
here.
to it. Commit.
I'm
Ready?
All right. That's it. It's over.